what we're going to do is we're going to give you a brief synopsis of what's happening during this disaster and how our agencies are dealing with it. Today we're going to start with Frank Barnes. Frank is our emergency manager for the City of Oklahoma City.
Thank you. Thank you, Christy. Good morning. Over the last 24 hours, we had an increase of snowfall, and in some parts of the city we saw between 4 to 6 inches of snow. Out at our office near the zoo, we had about 4 1/4 inches of snow. We still have anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 inches of ice on the trees and the power lines, and this is still a factor, and it's possible that we may still see localized and isolated power outages throughout the city, and that's what we saw yesterday. And the power company was able to restore service usually in a short period of time. So the outages we're having are short duration. The biggest impact from the storm has been to transportation. It's impacted the airports, the buses, as well as the streets. The streets continue to be hazardous in places, and we ask the public to not travel if they don't have to. But if they do travel, we ask them to watch their speed. They'll need to reduce their speeds, make sure they open up the distance between them and the car in front of them, that they make plenty of time to brake or turn. Also, if they're going to travel any far distance, if they do have to visit relatives or friends, we ask them to be prepared, take blankets with them, warm clothing, make sure you have a shovel in case you have to dig yourself out, make sure you have food and water and other preparations if you do have to travel a long distance. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Stanlin from the Fire Department. Brian?
Thank you. The fire department yesterday in the 24-hour period responded on 240 incidents. That's not terribly above average. We averaged 210 to 215 per day. So there was a little more activity, but not really out of the realm of the ordinary. We had one structure fire early this morning. Don't know yet if it was weather related or not. That's all we had in the last 24 hours, and then 5 power line calls. So we're cautiously optimistic on the fire side that things are going well and people are really heeding the advice. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you're without power but you're able to see this through a generator, or you have friends or relatives that you know are using generators, please make sure they use caution, and make sure you use caution with your generators. That's the big concern now, is if people are using generators in other parts of the state, they do produce carbon monoxide, so you want to make sure they're outside of the structure. Never use them inside, or never use them even inside of a garage where those fumes could build up. Use flashlights for light. If you do lose your power, even for short durations, candles are extremely dangerous, present a fire hazard. So we want people to maintain fire safety as we get through this situation. I'm going to turn it over to Mike DiGiacomo with Public Works.
Mike DiGiacomo, I'm the street superintendent. Basically, as Frank said, we had some snow come in later yesterday afternoon, and so with that accumulation out there, plus the ice that was already there, we moved into a plowing mode last night at about 6 p.m. I've got 5 contractors with about 51 pieces of equipment in the field as we speak. We've got my 6 crews with their 29 pieces of equipment out, and so we've got the vast majority of the emergency response. Those emergency routes have been plowed, okay? Again, it's one of those issues that you always have to understand. Is just because it's been plowed doesn't mean that it's dry, doesn't mean that there's not some ice there, doesn't mean that it's not slick. However, we've got some of those accumulations out of the roadway, and so we'll kind of expand that those operations through the rest of the weekend, and we may have to go back and redo some of those routes simply because we want to be able to remove that ice prior to Monday morning's rush hour. Downtown is a little bit different animal. Obviously, we can't plow downtown. And so what you have to do in the downtown areas, you actually have to pick up that snow and you have to haul it away. And so right now they're concentrating in the health sciences area at the med center, and then of course they'll move into the downtown area itself and they'll haul that material out. That's kind of our operation, and we'll continue that through the rest of the afternoon and into tomorrow. Just a quick caution, obviously when we do plowing operations, we're going to plow to the curb line, and then we'll take out those cross-street windrows, okay? Obviously we get some calls regarding those driveways and business entrances that may be on those emergency snow routes. Those we will not do anything with. Again, our concern is to get people from point A to point B, and so we'll be windrowing those snow to the outside against the curb line. And I'll just turn it over to Karen.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Karen Carney with Will Rogers World Airport. I'm happy to report that aircraft operations are slowly beginning to return to normal. Our first departure today was at 8:35 in the morning, and our first arrival was at 9:20 a.m. And actually in the last hour or so, we're seeing a lot of aircraft coming into the airport, and the airlines are actually anticipating that by this afternoon they will be returned to normal Saturday operations at the airport. The storm obviously significantly impacted Will Rogers World Airport. On Thursday we had over 100 cancellations, arrivals, and departures. Yesterday we had 133, and this morning, because again we did not have any aircraft in place from last night, we had 24 cancellations, bringing the total for the last couple days to 157 cancellations. This number, of course, does not include like freight carriers, corporate, business, or private aircraft. We don't have a number really for that impact. The airport, fortunately, did not have any passengers that had to spend the night in the terminal building or visitors, and my thanks to the media for that, because you certainly assisted us in getting the word out to not make any unnecessary trips to the airport. The airport runways and taxiways were closed yesterday for a short period of time, kind of when that snow really picked up and falling heavily, and visibility was really non-existent, but we were able to reopen the airport after 3 hours, and the airport crews worked all night long to ensure that the airport and runways would be operational this morning. Travelers are still advised to contact their airline regarding flight status and or if they're rescheduling. As much as I hate to say this storm has moved east, and there could be some impact on airports on the East Coast and maybe even possibly Chicago O'Hare. So travelers may still see some impact just based on where the storm has moved on. And lastly, I just would like to thank all the people at the airport personnel and businesses that kept staff in the airport to help service the travelers and visitors. And mostly I'd like to thank the travelers, because travel is obviously a very emotional experience, and for the most part everybody was very patient and understanding, and that was something we certainly appreciated. I'm going to turn it over to Michael-Ann Uten.
And I'm here to talk about what we're doing at the State Emergency Operations Center, which remains activated. We're continuing to support those local communities out there, which we know are dealing with the effects of the power outages that continue and the travel conditions that continue to be a problem. First of all, we're continuing to ask Oklahomans to stay off the roads if they don't have essential travel. If you do have to travel, just use your those good travel skills of allowing additional travel distance between you and that other vehicle, and to slow down. When it comes to the power outages, we're looking at about 140,000 homes and businesses out there that remain without power at this time. You know, this is a very tough time for Oklahomans. For some, it has been multiple days now without power. To help with that, we know there are shelters set up in the affected area. In fact, last night we had 42 shelters and warming centers set up, primarily in southwestern Oklahoma. And 2,250 Oklahomans took advantage of those facilities and were able to get a hot meal and a nice warm place to sleep. Additionally, we're working to get resources out to support not only those shelters, but to keep water treatment plants online. And these would be generators that we know that these facilities are needing. We're working with the National Guard to see that they're delivered. We're also working to get bottled water out to some locations that are needing them. With that, I'll turn it over excuse me, to Kyla Campbell with the Red Cross to tell you even more about the shelters.
Thank
Ms. Franklin. First of all, I want to really say thank you to all of the local emergency management and state emergency management officials. Our response wouldn't be possible without the partnerships that we work with on a daily basis to provide these services. We're seeing a large amount of recipients coming into the shelters. One of the things that we're encouraging people to do is bring your bedding to those shelters. We're looking at an extensive sheltering operation, so please bring the things that make you comfortable, your pillow, your blankets. Last night in Duncan, we saw 350 residents there in the Stevens County Fairgrounds shelter, and that number just was steady all through the day, growing. We don't expect that necessarily to go down right away, but we are looking to continue these services and to continue our sheltering operations until power is restored in all of these communities. We do have additional shelters that remain available in different communities that we can call up at any moment. We're also working, like I said, with emergency management to identify those locations and those needs in the community to activate those shelters. One of the main hurdles that we've kind of seen is the communication of those shelters down in those areas. It's been very difficult to get the word out, especially in Duncan, to the community where the shelters are located. So we encourage, if you know people in those areas, if you're able to get in contact with them, to spread the word, even if they're not going to utilize that service, to just let other people know. That's one of the best ways, just word of mouth. So we really encourage people to spread the word. Also, they can call 211. Sometimes the service has been up and down, but that's the best location to get information on shelter locations. They have a complete list of shelters around the southwest part of the state. The morale remains pretty high in these areas. Oklahomans are always very resilient, and they're wonderful to keep their spirit up. They understand that this is a difficult time when basic necessities aren't available to you. But the morale in the shelters still remains pretty high. We actually had a gentleman who had just finished, we are looking at hours, continue these hours, and to continue our shelter hours, until power hours, and all of these hours, additional hours available period of activities, period of we can call period of moment, period of working, period of with emergency, period of tied period of location, period of and those period of in the period of that because make those because one of the main because we've kind of because seen because indication of because there's down in because it's been very good because get the word out because especially number where the numbers are low encourage if you in those areas to get in contact to go for the last word for the last going to you for the last service for the last let other for the last that's one for the last just word for the last. So we really go for the last to spread for the last. Also, for the last 211 sometimes has been up at location information on location complete list of shelters around these part of the state. Morale remains in these areas. Oklahoma is very in their wonderful spirit up. Understand that it's difficult when necessities aren't to you. The morale is still pretty high. Got a gentleman who had just finished. We are looking continue these and to continue our shelters until power and all of these. For the last additional for the last that for the last available for the last for the last duties for the last we can call for the last moment for the last working for the last with emergency for the last tied to number location number and those number in the number activate those numbers. One of the main we've kind of seen indication of numbers down in that because it's been very good because get the word out because especially because where the because shelters are low because if you know because in those areas because period of to get in contact period of the word period of going to you period of service period of let other period of that's one of the period of days just word period of hours. So we really hours to spread hours. Also the hours 211 hours. Sometimes hours this has been up hours, but hours location hours information hours location hours complete list of shelters around these for the state. Morale remains in these areas. Oklahoma always very and they're wonderful. This is spirit up. This is understand that this is a difficult. This is when this is necessities are. This is to you. This is the morale. This is there's still this is pretty high. This is at a gentleman Southwest who had just Southwest and finished Southwest. We are looking at Southwest. Continue these Southwest and to continue Southwest. View our shelter Southwest stations Southwest until power Southwest and all of these Southwest.
We can call additional callers that we can call available. We can call communities. We can call moment. We can call working. We can call with emergency. We can call tied. We can call location contact with and those contact with in the community contact with those contact with one of the main contact with we've kind of contact with seen contact with education of contact with down in difficult places.
Thank you, Dan. And being a minister, we always like converts, especially from Texas. Amen. I'm Sam Porter with the Oklahoma Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, and we do partner very closely with Red Cross and Salvation Army, and then all the other faith-based organizations in Oklahoma. And that's many of you out there do not know VOAD, Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster, but it's an incredible group of people that are just there, non-government organizations to meet the needs of people around this state. And we're working very closely with them. We're in several shelters providing food in southwest Oklahoma, and we'll be there until there's no longer a need for that. The other thing we provide during these kind of situations is chainsaw teams, and we hope to have between 15 and 20 chainsaw teams from Oklahoma, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico in here on Monday and Tuesday. And again, let me emphasize, very strongly emphasize that we can't help everyone, but our priority target group to help are elderly that do not have anyone to help them, widows, single parent moms, and wives of military families that their husbands have been deployed overseas, and those are the priorities that we have. I'm going to give you two numbers that you may call and that you may request, and they can let you know if we can help them or not. That is 405-443-7583 and also 405-388-6912. And either one of these numbers would roll over to our incident command team, and they will be able to let you know whether we can help. And we'll be scattered all the way from Purcell back to Altus. We'll try to string these out all over the southwest part of the state. And lots of people are praying for you if you're out there and you get this by radio or television or whatever way that you can. Thank you. I'm going to give it back to Christy.
Thanks, Sam. If you have any questions, would be willing and would be able to answer those questions right now. Does anybody have anything?
Mike, about brining, is that helping?
Yes, obviously it does.
Repeat.
The question was if brining was helping, and yes, it does. But you know, we're too far into the storm for that brine to actually be as effective as it would have early. Our focus for the brine is to put it on the actual bridge decks prior to the storm getting here, so there's already material there, and so when we start our emergency routes, we don't have to do bridge routes first and then go into emergency routes. And so we found it to be effective in those first 6 to 8 hours. However, now there's not really much difference between a bridge deck that had brine on it and one that didn't have.
But it's helping out.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good program, and of course that's because we can be one day ahead. You know, the storm didn't get here until Thursday, and we already had brine out on Wednesday, and so yes, it has been helpful.
So you're happy with it?
Yes, sir.
I've got a question for the Red Cross. My mic was going out whenever you were talking for some reason.
Oh, sure.
Can you briefly describe the situation with the shelters right now and what people can do to help?
What people can do to help? The question was, what can people do to help with the sheltering right now? The communities, it's communicating clearly what the community needs. That's the biggest help right now, because in order to provide for those needs, we need to know exactly what it is. You know, whether that is needing a generator for the water treatment plant, then that can be coordinated through emergency management. Whether that's we need more water here in our shelter, giving us a heads up. You know, if the community plans on taking large groups of individuals out to, we had a possibility where apartment complexes were going to start moving people out there. So really they can just be clear with their information on what they're planning on doing, communicate that with the shelter so that we can prepare properly with additional resources if needed. Like I said, we're looking at an extensive sheltering operation here until the power is returned. And so the other thing that the community can really help with is just to keep their spirits high. And I know that that's kind of a lofty goal whenever we are in such kind of terrible times right now. We understand that. There's basic needs provided at these shelters, so please don't go expecting luxury accommodations. There are egg crates, there are cots, there's blankets, there's food and water, and that's what we have when people are looking for is the warmth, but that's about all. So bring things that make you comfortable. Okay?
Next question, I think probably for Brian.
Okay.
So, most people stayed at home during this whole storm, and now it's over with. Now people are getting out, moving around. Do you expect the emergency calls to increase in the next few days, or kind of stay?
We could. We certainly are geared up for any kind of response that's necessary from the fire side and providing EMS as well, emergency medical support as well. But our main concern, again, is for people staying safe and heating their homes correctly and making sure that they're safe while they're heating their homes. We did see 31 motor vehicle accidents in the last 24-hour period yesterday. That's not really terribly above average, I think, because people stayed home. So there could be an increase in that, and there could be an increase in slips and falls as well. So people just need to be real careful out there.
With the ice refreezing?
That's correct, especially at night. If people are going out for the evening tonight, and it's a Saturday night, use extreme caution because when it refreezes, it will get very slick.
Not a good night to go dancing.
Right.
Just out of curiosity, were any of those accidents semi-related? It seems like a lot of the semis, have there been complaints about semis kind of blowing through the interstate the last 2 days? Because I've been passed doing like probably a fast
Didn't get him. Some didn't get him.
Now people.
Some didn't get him. 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 Some didn't get him.
Or any kind of
There's
necessary from the fire
there's
and masses.
there's
Our concern again, there's people they're safe
when we
their home
when we
safe while they're homes. We did 30 motor vehicle accidents in the last 24 hours. Really above average because people so they're increase and they're increase falls. So we'll just need to be careful out there.
So that's now, would anybody have?
That's correct. Especially at night, people are going in the evening. Use extreme caution because when it refreezes, it will get
In question,
were there been semi like semis complaints about kind of blowing through the interstate the last 2 days past doing like probably
Chattered on. Let's 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 chattered on. Let's
now people. You expect emergency calls for the next
Could we or for any kind of that's necessary from the fire and provide masses emergency support. Our concern again, for people safe in their homes,
been hard
safe while they're in homes. We did 30 motor vehicle accidents in the last 24 hours. Really above average because people so they're increase and they're increase falls. So we'll just need to be careful out there. That's correct. Especially at night, people are going in the evening. Use extreme caution because when it refreezes, it will get
were there been semi like semis complaints about kind of blowing through the interstate the last 2 days past doing like probably
Now people are been